Well, hello, internet friends near and far. Welcome to another episode of Podcast 99, the latest part of our journey through the Mike Schur universe of television projects. And my name is Jason, and I'm joined all the way across town by the power of the internet by my friend Jeremy. Say hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going,
It
Jason?
is going just fine. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad you put some
I
thought
think
into
about it,
that.
you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, yeah, like when people say, like, what would you say if I said, yeah, not so good today?
I'd say, well,
I I'm
that's
tired.
too bad for right now because we have something else we have to do. But later, let's talk about it.
All right. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
I don't know if I would
Yeah,
actually
how are
say
you
that.
doing? How's the
You asked me that already.
how's construction?
How's what? Construction?
Construction?
Oh yeah, the
Construction.
the houses by
Yeah,
me.
out your window. Like, see, because like,
You can tell I'm looking out the window right now.
yeah, exactly. I love that because then it's like I can imagine what you're seeing.
Yeah. Well, the houses next to my house are all built and mostly painted, and so it's
Nice.
pretty. The journey is pretty much over, I think, for what I can actually see. But there are families moving into the neighborhood already, and people walking around looking at houses at different hours of the day and night. Uh, so I'll be outside, like take my dogs out to go to the bathroom or whatever, and I'll hear voices back there. I was like, oh,
Okay,
they're
back there. That's good.
yeah. I just don't know where they are because they're blocked by houses. So it's one of the many challenges of my life.
Maybe leave some of those uh, "It's a Sure Thing" podcast flyers when you walk
Yeah.
through the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
Of the
flyers
podcast.
have always been the best way to get people to listen to a podcast. So you know how you're like
Right.
busy doing something without your phone or computer right now? How about take this, hold on to it until you remember it, and then download this. It's the best way. The best
There
way.
you go. All right,
Yeah. Well, Jeremy,
that's solved.
we're
All
not
right.
here to talk about my future neighbors. We're here to talk about season one,
Mm-mm.
episode five, The Vulture. And this episode stars everybody's favorite idiot, Dennis Duffy, also known as a different
The Beeper
detective
King of
named,
New York.
yeah, the Beeper King of New York, the Subway Hero. Uh, you know, he's just a really
Mayhem.
stand-up guy. Yeah, Mayhem. His actual name in this though is where'd it go? It's the Vulture. They call him it. Nobody wants to use his actual name. We'll get to it when we get to it. So normally, listener,
It was
we
like
walk
Pembroke.
Pembroke.
Detective
Yes, there
Pembroke.
it is. Detective Pembroke from Major Crimes. And normally we walk through like the different plot lines, but this one really just carries the main plot line most of the time. So we're just going to kind of walk through the episode as it presents itself to us today. But it starts with everybody in the precinct talking about the oldest people they've arrested, and Jake arrested an 81-year-old drug dealer. Amy talks about arresting a 96-year-old for flashing. And she was afraid he'd die in the back seat or flash her. Rosa arrested a 78-year-old,
Hmm.
but the PCP made her fight like she was 20. Scully, because he's an idiot, is like, do two 50-year-olds count, two 50-year-old twins count as a 100-year-old? And they say no. And Charles comes in hearing all this late, and he's like, talking about your oldest bags? 68. And come to realize that he's talking not about arrests, but about a 68-year-old woman that he had been intimate with when he was only 20. And he's like, man, you get an opportunity to bed an older woman and you take it. And Jake points out that's not an older woman, that's an old woman. And yeah,
Someone's grandma.
yeah, it was someone's my college. He went to college with Marvin, her grandson. So yeah, that was gross.
That's actually how we met.
Yeah, which was one of those really Charles moments. Like, yeah, that's Charles. They're really dialing in the awkwardness of Charles. So, and then it cuts to the credits. Ba-da-ba-ba-da. So, and again, here we are, starting in the briefing room, and it is excellent. Way to set up the whole thing, and we learn about this large problem, major crime, large problem. I'm working my thesaurus pretty hard here. The large
Are you
problem division.
are you on the? That's
Uh,
what I was gonna say.
so yeah, we have a bit of a delay happening in the internet, and I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'm sorry that this is happening. You are frozen when I look at you. So I'm gonna pause real quick, and I'll be right back. And then I'm gonna wire in to the
After
computer
these
for
messages
real.
from Squarespace.
So I'll be right back, but I'm gonna pause recording. All right, listener, we may have had a problem, but we may have fixed it. You may never know. But I have to tell you because I believe in honesty being important. And so they are after the credits. They're in the briefing room, and we are getting an update on Jake's cases. In particular, the this murder case of Fred Gorman, who was very important in the community, but now he's a corpse, and his wife. And Jake is positive that she killed him, but he's unable to prove it because they can't find the murder weapon. And so Holt is trying to pressure him to get more people to help him because major crimes and the mayor's office are trying to get him get this case solved because this person was so prominent. And so they dismiss everybody, and Holt and Jeffords are going to go talk in his office. And Gina thinks it's because Harry's shirts aren't tight enough, which I thought was very funny. And the way he looks is like, what? So Amy and Rosa want to help, and Jake says, thank you, but I got it. And he's like, no, you have to do this. And he says, fine, I'll let one of you help me. And I choose Charles. And so Charles is going to help because he would never steal his thunder.
He wouldn't even borrow it.
He'd be afraid to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that people have that I would be afraid to borrow, like nice cars.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would actually borrow thunder. But I mean, somebody probably has a way to borrow thunder.
I think Imagine Dragons has most of it. Lightning and the thunder.
This is supposed to be a safe place where we never talk about that thing.
That's right. It's a trigger.
Do you like Imagine Dragons? Are they your thing?
They're fine. No, they're not my thing.
Fine.
They're fine.
So you're a big, huge Imagine Dragons fan. I'm learning so much about you.
Gigantic. No, I mean, I think for this generation, they've written some really good pop songs.
For this generation.
Or, it's been a while, but I mean.
That's Stained.
Oh, never Stained.
It's been a while.
And there was that generation's Imagine. No.
Oh my gosh.
Not even close.
No, that Imagine Dragons actually has multiple hit songs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm coming around to the whole pop, like not trying to be such a curmudgeon when it comes to music, and not everything's going to be your taste or style. And you know, I think Imagine Dragons is one of those. Here's the thing, man. You can't fill a stadium with Neutral Milk Hotel. You just can't. It's hard to do. You need bands like Imagine Dragons to come and rock out and make some hooks that are easy to sing to and call it a night. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You think that they sound like, what was it, Incubus or something?
And I don't know if we've ever actually had this conversation before.
No, we have. I've let it kind of slide and I think this is the time to finally really air it out. Like, what is your beef with Imagine? If there's ever a time to do it, it's during the Sure podcast.
Yeah, no problem. I'm fine with it. Let's do this. I think every song from Imagine Dragons sounds like a math problem that they solved.
Explain.
Like it all is just very formulaic.
Okay.
They all sound to my ear. They all sound exactly the same.
Yeah. They have a sound.
As soon as I hear like a few bars on the radio, it's like, oh, this is Imagine Dragons. It's just so. And it's just the same all the time. And I don't really like that. I don't like artists that just sound the same all the time.
Yeah.
And that's my
Yeah.
main thing. And so
Yeah.
I haven't yet to hear something where it's like, oh, this is a new one from Imagine Dragons and it sounds new. So I
Instead of like,
understand that
oh, this
people
sounds
love
like
them.
their old album.
Yeah, it sounds like the last song I heard from them.
Right.
And so,
Do you think
it's
they're
just
like
not
you
my
think they're
thing.
like ska or no reggae?
Reggae, I love that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like very much, it's just the same thing.
Yeah, but I think that there are bands that do that well because they are in that band of their sound. Like I don't think there's a lot of bands that totally sound like Imagine Dragons the way that they do it. And this is I know this is going to frustrate you.
Sound like
That's
Imagine Dragons the way that they do it.
well, no, like they have their sound and they haven't really
They
deviated
definitely
from
do.
it. And like when you say like, oh, I heard the first three bars, like, oh, that's an Imagine Dragon. Like so many people aspire to get to that point where it's like, oh, as soon as you hear it, boom, that's that band, no matter what. And I know this is going to be controversial. I think that is so much how most of later, so much of U2. It's like U2. It's
Wow.
I've
Oof.
heard that before.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just the edge plays the edge. Like literally, there's a quote. The edge is like Bono's like, "Can you play something different?" He's like, "No, this is the way I play. Like this is the way I write music. I'm not
Well,
changing." And so it's like you hear the first
yes.
couple chords of a U2 song, and you're like, "That's U2," but somehow that's okay.
Well, no.
But not
I,
Imagine Dragons.
yeah. Well, but here's the deal though with U2. In the 90s, they tried to be different.
They were different because they didn't
And
know any better.
it worked. Like in the 80s, they definitely dialed in their sound. In the 90s, for me, their stuff in the 90s, Octoon Baby,
Sure.
Zooropa, and Pop, I think are brilliant, and they don't sound like U2. So come back around to All That You Can't Leave Behind. It gets back into the
Right.
U2 traditional U2 sound, and it's good. But like my favorite U2 album is the one that sounds the least like U2, which is Pop. I love that album,
It's a great album. I
and
don't deny that.
they don't even like that album. Like listening to Bono's autobiography, he's like, it was an album that we never got to finish. Like they're not satisfied with it. And that's part of why I keep listening to U2. And then their newest albums definitely sound different than the albums that were made in the 2000s. So like eight, Age of Innocence and Age of Experience are both different enough that it's like, yeah, you're still trying to do new things. And so while
They named
Edge
them
definitely
both like
has a
almost the
sound,
same thing.
well, I think because they're supposed to be kind of a double album was more the concept.
Now they're getting artsy. It's concept.
Yeah. But then also like I love Smashing Pumpkins. I love Smashing Pumpkins. And Siamese Dream, if they just made Siamese Dream forever, I would totally be down with that. But they didn't.
But you just said you don't like that. Imagine Dragons does that the entire time, and you don't like
yeah.
that.
Well, I guess what it comes down to is I don't like what they're doing. And they're
There
doing
we
it,
go.
I don't like what they're doing, and they're doing it over and over and over again. Whereas like
stop doing the thing I don't like, do something I like, and then do that.
And
forever.
I know it's just not for me, and people love it, and they're allowed to love the music that they like. I just know that I don't like it.
Right.
So like in the last year, I've really come around to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Like I think she's brilliant, and there are albums of hers where she tries to do things that are different, and I do not like them. But then there are albums that are like 1989 is, I think, perfect. I think 1989 is a perfect album. And I'm so glad that all these people who wanted to talk about this episode are part of this. But I think
get away from Taylor Swift. What do you think about Travis Kelce?
I think Travis Kelce seems like a cool dude.
No, I don't want to talk about that at all.
But 1989 is perfect. And then she continued to evolve. And so now she's like Reputation, I'm not really crazy about, and Folklore and Evermore, I haven't really given it enough time. And then Tortured Poets Department is like, I listened to it all the way through and I was like, this is pretty good. Couple good songs. And then I listened to it again. I was like, there's actually a lot of good songs on this album. But each one is different.
How did we get here?
Because you mentioned Thunder and Imagine Dragons.
Oh yeah, Charles and Stealing Thunder. And we have gone off the cliff.
Again, this is part of the conversation of
this
whole universe. But I do think that, like Jars of Clay, right? We grew up in church. Did you listen to Jars of Clay?
Yeah, they had that one song.
They had their first
Flood
album.
or
Flood was
whatever.
on that album. It was acoustic rock, early '90s, like
Hmm.
Breakfast at Tiffany vibes. A lot of like that kind of whatever
Mm,
band that was called, like that kind of style. It was of a time,
right.
right? Their next album, Much Afraid, veered so far away from that. And I loved it so much. And all these people who are like Jars of Clay purists after one album are like, no, it's not Jars of Clay. I'm like, sure it is. It's all the same people. They're making new music.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
You
I don't know.
don't.
I just like when artists
I
try a
think,
new thing.
yeah, and but I also see the other side. And then definitely should move on. But I also get the appeal of like, hey, we've finally made it. We've made it to a point where people appreciate what we're doing, and we don't want to lose it. So if we change too much, we might lose our entire fan base. And there are bands out there that have done that and have lost. And there's bands that, like, I mean, I think Radiohead's a great example of that. Like, they really veered pretty hard after OK Computer, and I think they lost a lot of people, but the people that are with them still are like huge fans. So some people can make it, others not. I don't know. Who
Yeah.
cares?
I do
Let's
think, though, that the moving on reveals who your true fans are. And
oh,
if, and if
yeah,
you can dial in with those true fans, like you're never going to have a want for an audience.
sure, but
No matter what you do, you're
you
going
got
to
to build something
continue.
first.
Yeah. So, but is it worth what you're building?
Oh,
So,
lightning and the thunder. Okay,
oh man, that song in particular. Anyway, yeah,
it gets overplayed too. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, so, like, okay, yeah, all right. We need
you're
an
the
entire
one who
different.
wants to move on.
I know, but I have many. Yeah, I like music too. Totally different podcast. Anyway, all right. So we're in Captain Holt's office, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
Holt wants Terry to go with him to a gun range.
yeah, why though? Why does
Well,
he want him to
because
go?
yeah, because Holt needs to get his license back.
No, Terry needs to get his back.
Well, yeah, but we don't know that yet
Yeah,
for
we don't
sure.
know it,
But he
but that's
does.
that's what Holt wants is to like he's been behind a desk so long. He needs to get back up, and Terry's the best marksman in the office in the precinct.
But he hasn't done anything since the mannequin incident.
Yeah, and then we get a flashback of him blowing up the mannequin again,
Hmm.
and then he's also says, well, there was another incident after that, and they're in like a party store, and he like just blows away a pinata, and Jake's like, you got to cool it. I'm gonna get some candy, and so. Yeah, so Terry's like, I don't think I'm the best one to help you with this, but Holt's like, no, you got to do this. We'll take you. I'll keep it low key. We'll go to a private range, no cops, no pressure. And then Gina comes in going blam blam blam, gun range, and so that's no pressure. And so Holt invited Gina to come along because she lives in a neighborhood with a ton of crime, and the cops in her precinct are terrible. And Holt's just like, you live in our precinct. Yeah, so
Hey.
Gina knows that. So that's the subplot that's going to be happening in this one.
Hmm.
And it'll kind of bounce back and forth between them. And so Jake and Charles go to the building where the person died, and they're talking to the doorman. Who's the doorman? Jeremy, do you
Oh my
remember?
gosh. Yeah, no, I know. Hold on. It's the guy from NBC, Conan O'Brien's sidekick,
Yes, his name is Andy
Andy
Richter.
Richter. I knew it.
Andy Richter has great range, and he demonstrated it for us in Arrested Development when he played quintuplets, and one of them was Andy Richter.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so he's really something here. And so he made a recording. He's like, I already told you that we don't have any secret hidey hallways for knife hiding. So he's just like, I'll record it. But then he records this play or an idea for a novel of a mild mannered doorman who gets bitten on the penis by a radioactive spider and becomes the world's greatest lover. And like, that's what he accidentally replayed instead of playing the recording that he made. And so Jake, I want to hear what happens. He saves the first lady, if you must know. So, yeah, so they start knocking on doors, and the first one, there's an older lady who seems to be naked.
Disrobed.
and this is perfect for Charles. And so Jake's like, you go ahead and talk to this one. And then the next one is a lady who's frazzled with her whole life she's cooking and the baby's crying. And so Jake's now holding a baby.
I just felt like at this point right here kind of was like, why, if you have a baby, I don't think making, especially if it was a lasagna from scratch, that's just a bad call. I don't think that's just too much.
Well, I think
Lasagnas are intense, man. Like, why are you making a? I mean, if it's a frozen one, I guess, but still, I don't know.
Yeah. Lasagna is like a pasta cake.
Mm-hmm.
And I love we had lasagna last night, actually.
Oh,
And
nice.
I just love lasagna.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
good. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, people make decisions they make for reasons they have. And
Yep.
you can't hold people's all their decision making against them. Like you and I will still be friends even though you are a rabid Imagine Dragons supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we can still be friends as long as we just never talk about it anymore.
Yeah, that's fine. And as long as, I mean, as long as you're able to, and I'm going to let you keep your ideas that you two sounds actually different somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Good.
fine.
Anyway, so
But
Rosa,
I love you too, by the way. I just, not you
oh,
too as well, but the band. Anyway, Rosa, what's Rosa doing?
she meets them at the crime scene, saying there are no puncture wounds. They're like the
A
puncture wounds are
knife.
similar, but they're not a knife.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks it's a corkscrew. And so Jake, this is like a helpful clue as a team member is coming alongside Jake to help him, even though he doesn't really want it. But it was a very good thing that she did. But at the same time, Rosa called. She didn't come here. That's right.
Yeah, she was at the desk. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
looking at the picture at his desk. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, you got to get back here right away. A bald eagle just flew over my neighbor's. Anyway,
She didn't say that.
she didn't say that. I said that. It was a bald eagle. It was rad.
But at the precinct, it was a different kind of bird.
A different kind of carrion bird, the vulture, showed up. And she's like, you got to get back here right now. And they come and they see the vulture sitting at Jake's desk, polishing his shoes disrespectfully. And so Jake goes and talks to Holt and they're like, you can't let major crimes take over my case. And Holt's like, they have jurisdiction over everything and they're stepping in. There's nothing I can do. And so, yeah. So Jake is frustrated and we learn that they call him the Vulture because he swoops in and solves cases that are almost solved and takes credit for himself. And Holt's like, yes, Boyle, I put that together from context. So Jake is super frustrated and he has to do what he has to do, but he's going to leave in a protest and walk slowly out the office. And then he's like, "This is so boring," as he's walking out. So they hand the files over to the Vulture. Jake's giving him all this stuff, and he's like, I actually thank you for doing all the super easy work, the real Nancy Drew level stuff. And it's like, oh, she's solve a lot of murders. And then Charles instantly, murder on ice, recipe for murder. She was a wonderful detective. I wanted to be her when I grew up. And the Vulture is like listing them off with him, which I appreciate. He's like, yes, yes, yes. So he takes the files and he's like, I'm out of here. Anyone want to take odds on how fast I'll solve this case? So
I do like this though. Rosa says, "Yeah, you solved it because it was 98% fault solved," and he's like, "Yeah, the last 2% is the hardest. That's why they leave it in the milk." What? What?
Yes, I do love that.
Good dairy joke.
It is a good dairy joke, and it is a similar dairy joke from Parks and Rec when Andy said in 2% milk. I don't know what the other 98% is.
Which also, yeah, and then skim milk, which is lying basically water.
Yeah,
So
a lot of milk material in the Sure universe, it appears. So, so the Vulture takes off, and they're all frustrated, and they go to the bar, and Rosa says that she thinks he's pretty hot, as everybody's so frustrated. But they decide to come up with a revenge plan on the vulture, to try to get him to get him back for taking the thing. So
They're all coming up
um,
with different ideas.
yeah, so they're going to come up with different ideas, and so Rosa's is one of them is slash his gorgeous throat, and everybody's like, "What is wrong?" And yeah, because she likes violence. That's
I
one
thought you
of
were
her,
going to say
that's her
something else.
favorite thing.
It's got all of her favorite things in it. Violence.
Yeah. So while Rosa and Amy and Jake and Charles and Scully, for some reason, are trying to come up with revenge plans, Holt and Terry and Gina are at the gun range, and Holt is, getting some pointers from Terry, and he's helping him all this stuff. And then Gina is on the other one, like this, holding the gun up sideways, like in a gangster movie, and going blam blam blam. And Terry's like, "No, we've been over this." And then she's like, "Well, show me. Wrap your thick arms around me." And so Gina, and again, this made me so nervous. All of these things when Gina like takes the gun and scratches her nose with it, it's like and like I know this is a TV show and nothing's gonna happen to Gina, but at the same time, it made me very nervous.
Yeah.
And so Holt is talking. He's like, "When I lock my shooting arm, my other hand feels unstable. Now, what stance am I supposed to be doing? Weaver or isosceles?" Like, he very like technical. And Gina again is like, "You guys did stances. Like, I'll be like," and she's like posing and stuff. And so Terry's like, "Listen, we all do stances. Listen, all right, here, look." And he both watch, and he takes it and he shoots perfectly center of the target. And Gina's like, "That's 8." And I was like, "That's 7." And we come to find out that Holt tricked Terry to come and get recertified to use a weapon by teaching him how to shoot and frustrating him with Gina.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't sound like a safe plan.
No.
So,
but effective.
But effective. However, he only had 7 shots and he needs 8 to get recertified.
And essentially at this point, we can fast forward through the next 40% of the storyline, which is Terry just
standing there,
stalling because he gets scared again. Like the reality comes back, and now, yeah. So,
yeah. But we also, as he's standing there, we realize that he's like, "You just got to breathe, relax." And Terry's like, "Oh, guys, I forgot how to breathe. Is it 2 in, 1 out? Is it 2 in, 1 out?" I loved that one so much. And so they go back to the bar and they wrap his motorcycle in plastic wrap. And
Vultures.
The Vulture's motorcycle. And they're like, "Well, where does he live?" And Rosa knows where he lives. Like, "Oh, that place off 3rd Street." And they're like, "How do you know where this guy lives?" And so they go to wrap his motorcycle in plastic, and they are they get there, they wrap it, and they're like, "All right, now get a hairdryer." And Rose's like, "What? Why would we have?" And Amy's like, "What are you talking about? Like, don't you have a hairdryer in your purse?" And Amy, "Have you ever met a human woman?" And then Scully volunteers to go get one 4 blocks away. And so he takes off, and Jake's, "Oh, this traveling 4 blocks, this could take weeks." And he's just at the end of the alley, and he's like, "Whew."
Doubled over.
And so
Scully's line in the script is just, "Whew."
And so they cut back to the shooting range, and Holt is like, "Just take the shot." And he's like, "I need a second." And he's like, "You've had 18 minutes of seconds." And Gina's phone rings, and she answers, "Gina's authentic stolen police badges. How can I help you?" And it's Jake. And he's like, "Hey, do you have a hairdryer in your purse?" And she's like, "Of course, I'm not an animal." And she's like, "Bring it over to the Vulture's apartment." And Gina's like, "There's someone named the Vulture? Tell Rosa she'd be into that." And Holt hears that this whole conversation is happening, and so he goes and takes Amy's phone and is like, "What is going on here? And what are you doing to Detective Pembroke?" He's like, "Oh, we're preparing him a gift basket of sorts." And he's like, you have to leave this alone. This case is out of your hands." And so instead, and he says, "I suggest that you pull your team together and solve these cases before major crimes can step in. Am I clear?" And drunk Jake took that to mean we should go solve the case. And so they're going to go do that, but they need to take the bus because they're also very drunk. So they just need to go find the murder weapon is essentially the issue. And so
Right.
on the bus, they are on their way over there, and Jake is going over the details of the case. Like apparently that night they had a confrontation at a restaurant, and he had been caught having an affair, and this is not the first time. And so yeah, so Jake is giving all of the details of the case, and and Jake is frustrated because like I would have brought you guys in sooner, but I just get so excited, wrapped up in wanting to solve stuff, and they're like, yeah, we get it, we all want to be the best. And Amy's like, you don't have to be a butthead about it. So, and she's like, that's so harsh. And then Rosa comes up and sits next to Charles on the bus and just says, Hitchcock farts nonstop.
There's this little moment here where as she comes up to Charles, he gets the smile like, "Oh, hey, you come to sit by me." And then she says Hitchcock farts, and he's like, "Oh, it's not because of me. It's
Yeah.
because of farts."
Yeah, because at this point, Charles still has a bit of a crush on Rosa
Yeah.
that we're still waiting to have go away. So back at the
And
shooting range.
still in the montage of the shooting range of
Yeah.
stall tactics.
Right. Holt is like, we're still waiting, Sergeant. And then they're like, the target looks just like a friend of mine. It's freaking me out. And it's like, you have a friend who is just a silhouette. Yeah. And it's like, all right, let's just count to 1,000,000. And then cut to another one later. So then Iceman says, you can be my wingman any day. And then Maverick says, and I was like, I've seen the film. But Gina's like, I haven't. What happens next? Goose comes back, right? He's not really dead. Terry, Goose is gone.
No.
Which is a heavy load to hear, so I do think that one of the fun things about this as well is the way that Terry is telling the story is reminiscent of the way that Andy tells the story of Rambo and Babe,
Right.
and people are like so engrossed in it. It's so good. So back at the victim's apartment, they're looking for the murder weapon, and Jake said, we just got to find the corkscrew, make our case. I say we role play, and so they role play all the different things, back and forth with the different role playing. We don't have to go through all of it. But Hitchcock,
Charles doesn't want to be a door again.
Yeah,
That was my favorite. That was one of my favorite bits.
Yeah, because he didn't want to.
Be the victim.
Yeah,
don't make me a door. Role playing as a door.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, maybe she dumped the murder weapon down the trash chute on the way to the doorman. It's like, no, we looked, and we would have seen a bloody corkscrew. And so Hitchcock gets up and he just starts screaming. He's like, the corkscrew's still in the body. And Rose is like, stab. Then I toss it out the window and it lands on a passing car. And Jake's like, nope, that's not going to happen. Their video shows no cars at that time. And so, so they're still trying to figure this out. And yeah, but Amy's like, what if it was a magnetic corkscrew? If the corkscrew was a magnet, and Jake's like, oh, it's stuck in the hallway down the thing. I solved it first. And so they go to the trash chute and they are like, that's too narrow. We need to find somebody with narrow shoulders. And they all look at Charles. He's like, I don't have narrow shoulders. I have broad shoulders. And then cut to them holding Charles by the legs as he's dangling in the trash chute. And
dainty hands to fix princess castles.
Right.
And narrow shoulders to go down the trash chute.
Yeah. And so they, as they're trying to lower their colleague down the trash chute, the police come and bust them, and they have to let go of Charles, and he falls down into the garbage. But he also finds the corkscrew.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! And so the
conversation, at the gun range, shooting range,
gets this note like off the phone. It's like, apparently our detective squad has gotten drunk, compromised the crime scene, and an officer has gotten stuck in a trash chute. I need you to lead the squad, Terry, and I mean really lead it. Hope you can take the shot. And so Pembroke is back at the office. He's like, what kind of precinct are you running here? Holt, like, would you like to sit down? You seem upset. And he's like, yeah, I'm upset. Your team messed up the crime scene. And so Amy and Jake are outside, like, what's going on? Holt is going to kill you. He's like, I don't think he will because, and Charles like, voila, and then he pulls out the corkscrew, and so as this he found out as they were trying to take him out, and he slipped and he got in the garbage. I jumped ahead a bit. So, but Terry is pissed because he's like, look, Holt is right. I've been so worried about. Terry's like, I've been so worried about my own kids, I forgot about my stupid grown-up kids. And he's like, I should have been on you more. And starting now, I will be. But if you ever do this again, I will crush your head in one hand. And
No, you
so,
won't.
and Terry, I believe, could do it.
Oh
He
yeah,
looks he looks pretty strong.
yeah.
And so and Terry's like, look, you got Holt's taking heat for something that's not his fault, and I can't let that happen. And so Jake's like, fine, and he decides that he will go and surrender his files to the Vulture so that Holt won't get in trouble and everything will be fine. And so he goes into Holt's office and he's like, I'd like to that's a hard word to say.
Mhm.
Cordially invite you to calm down, especially considering that this case has already been solved by you. Looks like you found the murder weapon. It's a good thing you realize it was magnetically stuck on the inside of the trash chute. Congratulations. So the Vulture takes off, and but before he does, he slaps Peralta's butt and tells him to stay foxy. Or he slaps Peralta's butt and he looks at Amy. He says, "Stay foxy," and Amy's response is, "Die lonely,"
Oh,
which is cold. So yeah,
Jake, case closed. Good work, everyone. Let's call it a night with any further discussion. Just trying to slide out like
Just
it's all solved.
no big
It's
deal.
fine. No big deal. We got it.
But
Nope.
Holt is not having it, and so he's going to write everybody up, and he's like, "All right, fine. This is everybody who was there: Jake Peralta, Jay Peralta, Dr. Jacob Peralta, who has a PhD in slow jam studies from Funktown State University,
Yes.
also involved in right honorable Jay, and
We get
so
it.
he's taking all of the responsibility for it, and so Holt dismisses everybody, and Gina is. Holt is like, all right, well, detective, I'm happy to see you learn to be a part of the team. Now go home, sleep it off. And Terry is like, sir, thank you. And Gina looks and is like, ultimately, it was our raw sexual chemistry that helped him overcome his crippling fear. Talking about Terry's gun range stuff, because they flash back and she's inviting him to join his dance troupe called Floorgasm. They're looking for a man of precisely and then he takes the shot. And he's back in the game. He's ready to go. So, yeah. So everybody wins, and everybody's a grown up now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically, this ends the entire series
No,
because they figured out.
no, they don't. Because the
They
next
get
morning, Jake and Charles are talking, and Charles like, I have to say, you handle things with the Vulture. It was very mature.
mature. Yeah.
And
Take
Jake
the high
goes,
road.
yeah, you got to take the high road. And then the timer goes off, and zoom out, and we see that they are making a cast model of Jake's butt, and they are going to give it to the Vulture. So always take the high road.
Always.
Case closed.
The end. Nancy Drew solved another one.
Man, she's just so prolific in solving murders.
She is good.
Like Angela Lansbury from
Lansbury.
Murder, She Wrote, which I think she was the murderer in all of those she wrote.
Way too many murders in that sleepy little town. Although she did travel a bit. There was one where she came to Seattle.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones in the.
I didn't really see any of them.
Oh, okay.
I just know about it.
Yeah. Well,
I've also never seen a full episode of the Rockford Files, which I feel like I'm missing something.
oh man, the Rockford Files was great.
I love James Garner. I don't know why. I just it's one I hear the song and I bet I would love this show because the song is so good.
You would think. Well, I haven't watched Rockford Files in forever. I wonder if it holds up. I tried to watch a Columbo. They're all so slow. Like the pacing is so slow for back in the day, and it's just. I learned a new term the other day. They're not whodunits. It's how they catch them. right? Because they usually show the murder or the murderer. So now it's like, how do we get from B backwards to A?
Right. How do we
Ooh.
get Columbo to solve this problem?
Yeah, or Angela, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I like a good murder mystery for sure. Knives Out, Glass Onion, those kinds of things. Yeah. So how did you feel about this episode?
Well, I enjoyed this episode. I really like the Vulture. I think he's a great character. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I just love that. Here's a guy who just swoops in and he gets all this credit for work he didn't do, and he's just fun.
Yeah, there's a montage earlier where I mean, Rosa's got him a perp up against the wall, reading him his Miranda rights, and the Vulture comes in, finishes his Miranda rights, and takes him off.
Yeah,
Like he like that close.
yeah, he's great. He's the actor who plays him is a named person. I like he's to get back to our Imagine Dragons conversation, he's the same in everything,
Oh yeah, he
but
definitely leans
I
into it.
like it.
But nobody plays that character better, and I guess that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
he does such a good job at that. You can't say, oh, it's him, it's this actor trying to be this other person. Like, he has honed that character. It's
Hmm.
where, well, I don't want to say Joe Pesci, but like, some of those guys where they just end up playing caricatures of themselves after a while.
Hmm.
Robert De Niro was like, yeah, anyway, yeah, you can go on, but yeah, he's good.
But Robert De Niro has also been in several comedies,
Where he basically plays Robert De Niro.
but a funny one.
Sure.
It's a
Sure.
funny Bobby.
It
When
is
he's in a comedy, he's Bobby De Niro. When he's in The Irishman, he's Robert De Niro. So,
Roberto. Yeah.
Roberto De Niro.
Yeah. This is a
He's
fun
Bobby
episode.
Money
Um,
De Niro.
wow. Roberto De Niro.
So anyway, that's when he's producer, Bobby Money.
Robert Cash. All the pseudonyms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert Benjamins. What did you think about this episode?
I like this episode a lot. Anytime the team gets to come here, I think this is one of the episodes where we really get to see the team start to work together and solve a little bit larger problem. And I love those kinds of episodes where it feels like everyone's kind of working on the same problem versus all these smaller threads, which are fine too. But we really get to see the dynamic. They get to play off each other. And like even Scully, like you said, like, oh, some reason I love Scully's role in it because he offers the worst ideas to get them out of the way. So it's like anybody's idea after that has to be better. So like
Yeah, we're making
that,
progress now.
yeah, as soon as Scully's idea is out of the way, we're good. So that's what I liked about his character. And so yeah, more of it. I like that Terry is moving forward, in his journey, and he's going to get back in the game. And Holt wasn't too Holty in this one. He was a leader, but wasn't, we weren't worried about him. I don't know, being cranky. I like how you look at me like, oh, where are you going with this, man? I'm like, here's the thing. Let me
We
tell you a
weren't worried
secret.
about him being cranky.
I don't know. I don't know where I was going. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the words just start happening and you're just along for the ride. I get it.
yeah,
I've been there.
I closed my thing. I don't have the next episode. I usually do, but do you have
I
it?
also closed my thing because that website that I normally use is so addy that it bogs down my whole internet.
Yeah, the only thing I remember is there's a thumbnail with Charles with an orange wig. I think that is the next episode. So whatever that is, that's what we're talking about next week.
Yeah, that's the one. It's Charles.
In charge.
If you go to IMDb and in the search bar type in IMDb, that's not going to get you where you want to go. So
I
just
was
FYI.
over I was over at Video Only looking at a TV, and I got into a conversation with one of the salesmen, and we were talking about something else, and he's like, listen, this is what I would suggest. And he goes over to the computer and in his internet browser types in google.com, and he was in Google, so that the Google web page came up in his Google browser. People still do that. That's a thing. You joke, but it really happens.
So wait,
That's the end of the story.
instead of just typing his search in the URL bar, that is like a default search for everybody, he went to
Right.
google.com.
He went to
is what you're saying?
google.com first. Right.
Mhm.
It's like when your aunt posts her Google search to Facebook, right? Like
That happens too many times. Too many
anyway,
times. Or when people post their their status update is their latest medical problems. Too many people in my life have done this. My mom. I'm gonna whisper this in, everybody. My
just
mom.
so she doesn't hear it.
They'll never hear this. My dad had an unfortunate like rash situation on his upper thigh, and my mom posted a picture of him in his underwear to Facebook. Like, Mom, you have to take that down. It's like, why? Because you're gonna get flagged. So it was awful. It was so bad.
I love your family so much.
Like, how did you think this was a good idea? Why would you ever go to the internet, like just say, anybody know what this is? And they'll be like, it's Brian's upper thigh.
Like, she's crowdsourcing a diagnosis. She's being resourceful, man. She's using her resources.
Oh, it's so bad. So bad. So season 1, episode 6 is Halloween. So it's our first Halloween heist.
That's right.
It's a classic.
Yes,
classic convention.
So good. So good.
I'm pretty sure every season has some sort of heist episode.
I think so.
But one of them, it's late because of Amy's life situation that she's in at the time. So they have to do it later. I'm not going to give you spoilers. Yeah. So, yeah. Right. So they're not always on Halloween, but this time they are. So, anyway. Well, Jeremy, we'll be back next week. We did it. 3 in a row.
3 in a row. We're going to go for 4.
Next week is a dynasty.
Let's go. A dynasty. A dynasty of episodes.
A dynasty of podcastery.
Yeah. So right, I gotta get going.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine Dragon tickets go on sale at 11. So.
Oh yeah, cool. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look to see if I can get those Wallflower tickets that I've always wanted, because I really do want them. Their second album was much different than their first album. FYI.
True. It's true, and haven't really heard from them since.
Okay. Well, listener, if you have any questions, send us an email, parksandconversation@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify or the Fast Signs review board. We'll still look for reviews over there. So we'll see y'all later.
All right.